everybody, welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the show with powerful picks, sexy super fans, and that's really fun. I am your host, 27-year fantasy veteran Greg Reifstick.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee. I've been playing fantasy for about 12 years, and together we are the beauty
and the beast
of fantasy football experts.
Welcome to show 2 of our draft specials. Welcome to the new season. Preseason is here. We're very excited, in case you didn't watch the other episode or watching these in reverse or something, but if you are starting to watch this one, go back and watch the quarterbacks and running backs. Do it in order. That way you can take all the notes that you want. We are giving you all kinds of good picks. We are running down our top 5 in each key position, except for kickers, because who cares? But we are running down all the positions to give you players that we think are the top 5, each of us. And we're also showing you our list of top 10 to give even more of an ambiance, give you a little bit of leeway, see where they're falling in certain mock drafts. Yeah, it's already turning out to be an interesting season. A lot of injuries have already happened in the preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to find out all of the information this entire season, we have something new and special. It seems like every season we have something brand new for you guys. So we have an app that you can go download for free. Yes, just search Big Balls Fantasy Football in your Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And you are going to get, of course, our video casts every week of our picks. You are going to get just on the app, you can only get it on the app, Cash and Prost's blogs. They're going to have some strategy blogs for you. Of course, you can ask us your line of questions. This is an awesome feature, I think, because you can get our opinion instantly on who you should put in that lineup. We'll answer your last-minute questions for you if you have those. And then you have access to, of course, our website, all of our social media, photos, and all that fun stuff. So go get the app because we're putting everything on there. You get push notifications of injuries. That's another big thing. All the player updates are on there. So we are still putting stuff on Twitter and Facebook, but we're not putting as much stuff on Facebook and Twitter because we're putting everything on the app.
We want to bring you into the app because the unfortunate thing, well, Twitter is instant, but unfortunately Facebook now, unless you boost your posts and that takes, basically Facebook doesn't do anything instantly anymore and limits your lists. So we don't want to limit your list. If you sign up for the app, you get it instantly. Just to give you a little bit of information on those blogs, Cash, he used to be on our show, he used to be on our podcast, diehard Bears fan, lives down in Texas. He is going to be he had a really good column about Deflategate. This week, if you go download the app, you are going to get sleeper picks.
And he has some awesome ones on there.
Sleeper picks. You want those before you do your drafts this weekend, all right? If you already did your draft, you missed them, but you need to get them for your draft this weekend. And Prost, of course, is our big Green Bay Packer backer fan, and he gave us the fantasy lowdown on the Packers. There's going to be different columns every week. We're going to archive them, but you're only going to be able to get that on the app. So also we might have some contests. We might have some picture contests. We're all going to do it through there. So definitely pick it up on the iTunes Store or on Google Play. So let's just get down to it, huh? Let's get down to...
do wide receivers
Wide receivers, all right. So we talked on the last show about the quarterbacks thrown to these studs, and I let Jenilee start off because she has. We both have a number one, somebody that she's definitely passionate about.
I am. As you can see, our lists vary a little bit, but this one we definitely have as the same guy. Is wide receiver Antonio Brown of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there's multiple reasons why I love this guy. First off, I drafted this weekend and I got him, and so I'm very excited about that. Secondly, he won me some money last year because he lost his mind. He led the NFL last year in both receptions and receiving yards. He had 129 receptions for 1,698 receiving yards. I made that bet at the beginning of the season and won about $300. So thank you very much, Antonio Brown. And obviously, he has really great chemistry with Big Ben. He's the #1 out there. Big Ben loves him. And, you know, that's the thing we kind of talked about because we did running backs the last show, that with Le'Veon Bell out there as your running back, who is very, very talented, as a defense, it's a little hard. You have to pick your poison a little bit. The Steelers have quite a few good receivers.
Yes.
They have a lot of talent out there. They have Marcus Wheaton. They have Martavis Bryant. So, it's something that you just can't cover everyone. And Antonio Brown knows how to get open, and he just does his thing. So you better go pick him up.
You can't sing his praises enough. I mean, he led the league with 129 catches last season, and he's the only player to post at least 100 receptions in each of the past 2 seasons of fantasy wide receivers. He's just a stud. That's why I had to put him at number 1, too. Now I'm going to talk about somebody that I'm passionate about. I love Demaryius Thomas, and I had him on a team last year, and he just completely balled out for me. 1,619 yards, 11 touchdowns, 101 yards per game. That's who you want. That's 100 yards a game. That's the dream fantasy wide receiver. He scored 17 or more PPR fantasy points in 13 of 16 games. He had at least 1,400 yards and double-digit TDs in each of the last 3 seasons. The other thing, he's going to be getting a lot more balls, as if he didn't get enough last season. The receiver core is thinning. As we know, at Peyton's place over there at the Broncos, you no longer have Welker. You no longer have Orange Julius, who took a paycheck over with, Jaguars. Really? Wow.
That's very true. I have him down at 4th, but he definitely is in my top 5. The only reason I dropped him down a couple spots was because with Kubiak, that running game is going to be a big deal out there, so they are going to be running the ball a little bit more.
True.
However, he's a top 5, obviously, because of all the reasons you stated, and because it is Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning is going to throw the ball.
Yes.
And ever since Manning has been in Denver, Thomas has gone over 1,000 yards, and he's had 10 or more touchdowns every season. So, that quarterback, wide receiver chemistry is a big deal, and those two are buddy-buddy. So, I will move on and talk about my number 2. I put Dez as number 2. He's had 12 or more touchdowns in the last 3 seasons, so that's a lot of points right there. When you're getting those double-digit touchdowns, he's obviously the guy that they're looking for in the end zone. And he's a happy Dez. He's a very happy Dez.
No, he is.
Because he got his new contract. He got $70 million with $45 million guaranteed. So he's a happy guy. He got his money. The Cowboys are obviously going to expect him to keep producing at the high level that he is. And this is something we talked about a little bit last show as well, is it's a little sketchy right now on how well Dallas is going to be able to run the ball.
A little sketchy?
With the running backs that they have.
That's a lot sketchy. Randall getting injured in the preseason, and it's a mess. Who's going to run the ball? Is there going to be somebody to actually run the ball?
Yeah, and they have a great O-line, which, obviously helps with the running game.
But they let their weapon go.
They let their weapon go, and it's not necessarily just a plug-and-play position.
No.
So, yes, they have a great offensive line, but, these other running backs, they're already in some trouble. So, if they can't run the ball, it is going to be up to Romo and Dez, and that's why I put him as high as I did, because I think that they're going to have to rely a little bit more on the pass this year than they did last year. So
they're going to be
number 2.
I don't blame him for being number 2. I just dropped him for number 3 because of my love for Thomas. Des is a stud. He's going to ball out this season again, and it's going to be a pass-happy offense. It's going to be pass-crazy offense because their running game is completely suspect. How the hell do you replace DeMarco Murray? You don't. You can't replace DeMarco Murray, especially fantasy-wise. Unfortunately, do you see DeMarco Murray anywhere here? Where he's languishing elsewhere, and they let him get away for another contract, and that's why he's not in the top 10 anymore. Otherwise, he probably would have. He definitely would have been in the top 10 if he was still on Dallas.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That was, of course, our running back show.
Yeah.
So that was your number 3, obviously, is where you have Dez. I put Julio at number 3, so that was kind of the switch up where we had the Demarius switch up. And I put Julio at number 3 because he's back, he's healthy, yay! I know we like, hearing that. He's Matt Ryan's favorite target. He's coming off his best year last year with 104 receptions for 1,593 yards. So, hey, I like guys that are coming off their best year, especially in fantasy, because they want to outdo that. So he is now a receiver that has been in the league for a few years. He's got the chemistry down with Matt Ryan.
For sure.
And he's going to want to do even better. We know that their new offensive coordinator is Kyle Shanahan, and he likes to throw the ball a lot. So I expect Atlanta to be throwing the ball a lot. And like we touched on again in the last show, I don't think that Atlanta's going to have all that great of a running game this year. They have no big-time running back there. So, it's something that I think that they're going to have to rely on the passing game. Julio is the unquestioned number 1 with Roddy White getting older. He can't do quite what he could do. No, so Julio's the guy up there in the ATL.
I like that pick a lot. I just had him down lower.
So far.
I know. I like my Mike Evanses. Let's talk. Let's just talk about this briefly since we're just looking at it. You unfortunately notice who we both have at number 6 because we both, of course, formerly had Jordy Nelson, who is with the good old CL injury and out for the season, and that's going to switch up the Packers situation a lot. And I think we also both had Jordy Nelson a little higher, didn't we?
No, I actually had Jordy Nelson as my number 6. I just did a plug and play right there.
Really?
Because of the fact that it is Aaron Rodgers and it is the Packers. And Randall Cobb is an incredibly talented receiver. He had an amazing year.
He's going to pick right up.
An amazing year last year. So if you have to switch him from your number 2 to your number 1, that's an okay thing for the Packers. They're going to be just fine with that. So that's why I just did a swap. I was like, okay, no Nelson, Cobb takes that place.
The only reason I brought that up is because I did have Beckham down in the Jordy Nelson spot. Then when I had to put Cobb in, Cobb is great, but Jordy Nelson is Jordy Nelson, which is why the Packers, as a Bear fan, actually a little happy about it. Odell Beckham Jr., we know what this guy did last season. I only have Madden. Why the hell did you put him on the front of the game? Why? Their Madden curse is real. Jesus. So buyer beware with the Madden curse. No, you got to take this guy early, and you only have him one position down. This guy's amazing. The famous one-handed grabs this guy did last season were just sick. He's already doing them in practice. He's showing off. This is just an amazing young talent. 1,305 yards, 12 touchdowns, 108 yards per game. Again, as long as you're getting that 100 per game average, among all non-quarterbacks, Beckham finished 11th in PPR fantasy points during his rookie season, and that was only in 12 games. He played a partial season. He wasn't in every. He emerged because of the whole Victor Cruz situation. And you notice you don't see Victor Cruz on here anymore, which he used to be on this top 10 list. Again, you get injured and you get older and you just fall out of, Victor Cruz is going to be a factor still this season.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's a really good person to take lower in your draft, but Beckham is it. He's just a stud. He averaged 24.75 fantasy points per game in PPR leagues, highest among all players that weren't quarterbacks. It's crazy ass. Almost 25 points a game. That's nuts.
Yeah, he lost his mind, obviously, last season. And the thing, I put him just a little bit lower, obviously, still a top 5.
Yes.
Because it is going to be his first full season. So, you never know what's going to go on with that. He is a young guy. But I think that they're also going to have, the Giants are going to have a more balanced attack. I think that's what they're hoping, at least, because they did pick up Shane Vereen in the offseason to help Jennings out in that backfield. So I think if you give them a little bit more balance, Eli can do a lot more, and that's the guy he's going to be looking for, obviously. And just overall, it's a tough division. You got to score points in that division because you have the Eagles in that division, you have Dallas. No one cares about the Redskins, but Eagles and the Cowboys. you got to score points to to win games in that division. So he's going to be a huge factor.
Yeah, I mean, that was when Victor Cruz was a stud, when you actually had a running game on the Giants. It's a huge factor when you have both of them running at the same time. Alshon Jeffrey. What else can we say about Alshon Jeffrey? He is the guy in Chicago now because our stupid organization gave away Brandon Marshall, who's now languishing on the Jets, which is why you don't see him on this list because he has nobody to throw to him. But Alshon had a phenomenal season last year, 1,133 yards, 10 touchdowns, 70 yards per game. He has an amazing chemistry with Cutler and with Clausen. He's always looked good with him. And the reason he's definitely the guy is Kevin White, our rookie wide receiver, is out at least 6 games. They're threatening the whole season, but I think once you have... this is my opinion, I think he was injured before we got him. And unfortunately, I think our general manager made a sketchy pickup on it. Hey, you're the one when we were...
He got injured in OTAs. That's actually been said that he got injured in OTAs.
Okay, I'm a conspiracy theorist, so... Anyway, you were the one that told me, though, when we were sitting there and we were watching, you saw the footage on our draft specials... I was getting all excited. I'm like, this is our guy, this is our guy. And you said, this guy hasn't even taken one catch. Don't get so excited. And sure enough.
Well, I think it has to be that way with every rookie.
I agree with now. I agree with you. I was, drinking the Kool-Aid and then watched some poor guy spend $1,400 for his signed jersey. Oops. Ooh. Anyway. Let's move on.
Well, I have Alshon. I just wanted to, make a couple quick notes. I have Alshon down a little bit further, only because of the fact that Kevin White is injured, and of the fact that Marquise Wilson is now slightly gimpy. So the thing is yes, Alshon's huge, and he's an awesome receiver, and he's that guy that can pretty much just go up and get the ball, but it's going to be a lot easier to double cover him without having someone else on the other side. And this is his first year really playing without Brandon Marshall, which makes a big difference too. So he's having to completely, take on more of the responsibility. I'm just not sure how he'll do with that. And he also has an injury history. So I put him down a little bit. Of course, he's still a top 10, but he's a guy that I wouldn't, unfortunately, be surprised if he gets injured too. So, and then AJ Green, keep an eye on him because he's in a contract year this year.
Yes.
I love taking players that are in their contract year because they're playing for the big dollars.
Yep.
So he's healthy. He should give you way more fancy points than last year when he was gimpy, and that contract helps. So, you want to move it on to tight ends?
Let's move it on. All right, tight ends. He's healthy. He's a stud. He's awesome. He plays like the biggest wide receiver in the game. It's Gronk. Don't even need to put his full name.
On that.
You don't even need to put the full name. We all know who Gronk is. He's amazing. He's a stud. He's insane. 1,124 yards, 12 touchdowns for a freaking tight end. Are you kidding me? 74.9 yards per game for a tight end. It's crazy numbers. He had 4 100-yard weeks last season against the Bengals, the Broncos, and the Ravens. And, of course, we remember what he did to our Bears.
Oh, I was going to say, he embarrassed our shitty Bears defense. Embarrassed.
149 yards. We didn't bump him at the line. Mel Tucker expected us to just catch him in space. This is Gronk.
That's a game that I'd like to forget.
Yes. So anyway, that's all I have to say about the man. You have anything else to say about Gronk?
Not really. Just the fact that right now a lot of their wide receivers are injured.
Yes.
So, who knows how the injuries aren't super bad. I mean, the wide receivers aren't missing,
but
a lot of the season.
They did get a new addition.
They did get a new addition, but he's Gronk. He's going to get a lot of targets. So that's that.
If you haven't heard, Reggie Wayne is now a Patriot. Okay, you heard it here first, but we're going to post this up later. So you had the app, you got the notification.
Exactly. So we also have our second one is the same. That's Greg Olsen. I've always been a huge Greg Olsen fan.
You're the biggest Greg Olsen
I do.
fan.
I love Greg Olsen. What can I say? He was amazing when he was with our Bears. I was very, very sad when they traded him to Carolina. Yeah. But he's been awesome in Carolina because he's an awesome player. So he's been targeted over 100 times each of the last 3 seasons, so he definitely gets the targets. And he's Cam's safety blanket. Anytime Cam is stressed out in the pocket or receivers are dropping balls, he says screw it and he looks for Greg Olsen. So, and let's be honest, who else does Cam have? Kelvin Benjamin is out for the season with the torn ACL. They have Jericho Cotchery, and they have their rookie wide receiver who is also injured at this point in time. You know, who knows what game he'll be back for. And he's a rookie. Who knows what he'll be able to do. So Cam is just, I feel so bad for Cam. He's in trouble again this year. Carolina refuses to get him people. And then they did get him Benjamin, and he's hurt. So Greg Olsen's going to be the guy. He's going to get a ton of targets. So he's going to be a good tight end. And he's on my team this year. So I picked him up.
I've always been bitter that the Bears let him go. Unfortunately, they had an offensive coordinator at the time that did not know what to do with him. So he's at least being used properly. Let's before we talk about a Bear that we both love, why don't you tell us why you put Travis Kelce at number 3?
I put Travis Kelce at number 3 for a few reasons. He had a great first season last year in the NFL, and that can be definitely hard to do as a rookie, as we know. He had 67 catches for 862 yards and 5 touchdowns. So I believe he was a top 3 tight end in most leagues, depending on how you score last year. And we know Alex Smith doesn't throw the ball deep very often. Now, they did go out and pick up Jeremy Maclin this season. However, it is Alex Smith. So Macklin's going to get some targets, but they're still going to rely on Kelce and Jamal Charles a lot. And that's the thing. Kansas City doesn't throw to their wide receivers in the end zone for whatever reason. Their wide receivers don't score many touchdowns. So, you know, Alex Smith is always going to look for him in the end zone. And hopefully he'll be putting on a better show for you in his second year than his first year. But he finished so great last year. And with the system they run there in Kansas City, that seems to work quite well for them. You know, I put him as a top 3.
Travis Kelce is going to benefit because Alex Smith throws like a girl. That's it. I'm sorry. He just does. He can't throw more than 20 yards. That's how he is. Anyway, let's move on to Mr. Martellus Bennett that we both
got him up there.
We both love him. He's phenomenal. He's been great. He's been saving our team a lot ever since he came to the Bears, bailing us out of situations. 916 yards last season, 6 touchdowns, 90 receptions, 10.2 yards per reception. That's phenomenal numbers. That's what you want as a tight end. Had 2 100-yard games, one of them against the Packers. Yay. We didn't win, though. And and the Lions. He is Jay Cutler's security blanket, just like Kelce's Alex Smith's. And Alshon is going to, of course, as you just said, be double-teamed, and Cutler's going to need to be bailed out, and Bennett's going to be the dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. He's coming off his Pro Bowl season last year, voted to the Pro Bowl. It was his best season as a pro so far, so I expect him to do some of the same. And like we said, we already talked about the injuries that the Bears wide receivers are having. So you got to look for a guy that is out there that can do a lot for you and that's actually healthy. And I assume that our receivers are going to be injured for a lot of the season, unfortunately.
Yep, it's going to be a rough one. Jimmy Graham, who used to, when Gronk was injured that one season, he was number 1. And he used to be around number 2, but now he's my number 4 and your number 5, and that's for a pretty big reason. Yeah,
absolutely. He got traded to Seattle. So obviously when he was with the Saints and Drew Brees was his quarterback, you know, he balled out for you every year, and you had to take him either first or second in the draft. But Seattle does things, as we know, a lot different. Seattle loves to run the ball. So that's what they, do best. But why I do have him in the top 5 is because he's a great player.
He's Jimmy Graham.
He's a great player. And he's going to be a huge target in the red zone. This is what we were saying in the last show a little bit, is it's going to be a pick your poison for defenses at the goal line or, in the red zone because, you can't stack 8 in the box when you have Jimmy Graham out there. And if you do try to stop beast mode by stacking 8 in the box, Jimmy Graham gets the touchdown. So I think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns, even if he doesn't get the yards for you this season. I maybe don't expect as many receptions or yards as when he was with the Saints, but I think he'll get you a lot of touchdowns, so he'll get you those points. And the Seahawks don't have any elite wide receivers, so he'll probably get a ton of targets just because their receivers are okay, but Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin are not top 10 guys by any means. They're not top 20 guys by any means. And Russell Wilson, in my opinion, just keeps getting better at quarterback. Yeah. So now he's got this huge guy to use. I mean,
the only reason I don't have him at 1 or 2 because you have Gronk and Greg Olsen. They're both awesome. But even not at number 3, it's because he's going to have to build that chemistry with Russell. He's definitely he is so used to Drew Brees being there. He knew where the ball was going before it even got there. I mean, the two of them were magical. I think they have the most connections of any. They're up in the top 5. They have to be the top 3 of the most connections between a quarterback and a tight end in Saints history, easily, if not the highest. They used him as a tight end. They used him as a wide receiver rather down there. That was the style. Whereas we don't know. Yeah, Carroll is kind of a loose cannon when it comes to strategies. He's kind of like the Chip Kelly out there on the West Coast, where you don't know what he's cooking in the kitchen. So there were all these panic reports coming out saying they're just using Jimmy Graham as a blocking person. They're not just going to use him as a blocking person. Carroll's not an idiot. He's not going to trade for somebody like that and not use him. So yeah, you're going to get. I agree. You're going to get the touchdowns out of him, just not the yards.
Yeah, absolutely. We're the same on that.
And then I will finish up. I have Jordan Cameron, who is over there on Miami now, and he of course has. He had 424 yards last season, 2 touchdowns because of injury. He's been very injury prone. I think he's well now. I think he's going to do well there. You have Tannehill at the helm, who's going to have a breakout year. He's been on the cusp, but he had 17.7 yards per catch last season, which is a pretty damn big number. And if he can replicate down there with a little bit more stability than he had at the Browns. You had the quarterback carousel down there. Are we going to go with Johnny Football? Are we going to go with this guy? Are we going to go with Hoyer? You didn't know who you were getting, and then he gets injured. So the Browns are a mess of a team.
Yeah.
So he just got caught up in that. He got caught up in the injuries. I think now that he's on a team that's going to appreciate him, I put him in my top 5 for that reason. I think he's going to put. Here's my bold prediction. You heard it here first. I think he's going to get 750 to 800 yards and 8 touchdowns this season.
There we go.
A bold prediction.
Yeah, I did not put him in my top 10 this year because every year I talk about him. I've drafted him so many years in fantasy, and he always gets injured, or he just doesn't end up producing. And granted, what you said is true. The Browns' quarterback situation was horrible. Yeah. I do hope for him that he has a great year and that he produces down there in Miami, and hopefully, Tannehill is a much better quarterback than who he played with the Browns. But I just was like, I'm exhausted every year I talk about this guy, and he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. So I left him out of my top 10. I will just talk real quickly about Tyler Eifert for the Bengals. He's up there in my top 10. He's supposed to have a pretty good breakout year this year. I know him and Andy Dalton have been getting their chemistry going. Yeah. And Jermaine Gresham is no longer there. So that was one of the things is they had that 2 tight end set. Yeah. Gresham got a lot of those catches. Now they are just relying on Eifert this year. So there's been a lot of talk about him. He's having a great camp. So I definitely put him as 6th. He's up there in my tight end, my top 10 because he's a tight end that I think you have to have. There's not a lot of great tight ends. That's a position that gets really sketchy in fantasy. After the top 10, it gets a little scary of who can produce for you. So I think he's a guy that will produce this year.
Yeah, before we go on to defenses, I just want to say I feel for you with the Cameron situation because we all we all have those players, and it happened to me 2-3 times in our draft that we had yesterday. Is your butt hurt about somebody bad? They've screwed you season after season after season, and you trusted them so much. And each season, the season you pick, I think we all know Dwayne Bowe fans out there, don't we?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I picked him 1 year, and that would never happen again.
Then, there are some players, they're like crack. You can't lay off them. No, this is the season. Yeah. No, this is the season. I know you spoke his praises for so many years.
At least two or 3 years.
Yeah. So I'm drinking I'm playing the game that is also a buyer beware thing. New team, new blood. Let's see.
That can help. It definitely can help.
It can, and other times you get on the other team and they just that's the world of fantasy. 50% skill, 50% luck.
Yeah.
So speaking of luck, let's move on to defenses. The one thing that keeps all teams in check.
That's right, because they can give you a lot of points depending on how your league scores. Mm-hmm. But it's also a position that, we're
kind of all over the board.
We're all over the board, and you can switch it out. You really can. So if you don't draft a phenomenal defense, say a top 5 defense, you can look at your matchups and get a defense that maybe has a good matchup for 2 or 3 weeks, and then dump them and pick up another one that has a good matchup. And you find that out as the season goes when you're watching these offenses play. So
because you look at the Bills are at number 2 and the Bills are number 3. Last season they weren't that high, and it's because last season their defense gelled. And they have I
think I picked them up on the waiver wire in one of my leagues and held on to them all year.
Everybody did. And everybody realized, wait a minute, these Bills are a young defense and they're gelling, and they're taking out some big teams and holding them to some low points. And you just eked them up. I think it was about week 6 or 7. And
I got them early. I got them like week 3 or 4.
I actually got mine like about week 6 or 7 in our in Pros League. And
no one was paying attention to that league then.
No, I just held on. I was like, hey, look, I got gold. And then all of a sudden I'm getting like, double-digit points guaranteed every week. And you're like, damn, out of the defense, that's what you want. So
we're the same for the first one.
Well, it's the Legion of Boom. I mean, really. I mean, as certain shows say, numbers don't lie, but it's true. 40 sacks, 24 interceptions, 9 fumbles, 6 touchdowns. They're the most explosive defense. They keep getting compared to our 85 Bears D. And, I mean, in the new frame of the game, they're probably up there. It was a much different kind of a game played back then. It was a little bit more, we were ground and pound, but they were more, flashy, had a lot more flash to them with Sherman and everybody else. Yeah,
absolutely. And, one thing I wanted to mention about them is they have a rookie kick returner. His name is Tyler Lockett, who has been going nuts. He has caught a lot of people's eyes. Mm-hmm. I think he could be outstanding. Mm-hmm. So if you get return yards in your, league for defenses, that could help you out. And, I mean, he could be running them back for touchdowns, which, of course, no matter what league you're in, that helps you out. Mm-hmm. So they could even be better fantasy-wise. I know in the league they were number 1 last year, but in a lot of fantasy they were down just a little bit. Mm-hmm. But that could really help them out for those fantasy points.
Yeah, you always say that's why it's a special teams defense. Everybody just says they're defense. No, it's special teams defense. Now, in some leagues they're counted, the special teams points are counted, some aren't. But that's up to your commissioner.
Yeah. And with the Bills, they did have 54 sacks last year. Yeah. So that front is a very scary front. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about the fact that Rex Ryan is there. And he historically always had good defenses on all of his teams. So the Bills are a scary defense to mess with this year.
Yeah. We both, of course, have the Texans up in our top 3. J.J. Watt and the boys. Scary as hell.
And they added Vince Wilfork at nose tackle, too, which is, I think, going to be awesome for them.
Yeah, it's just a sick defense. They hold a lot of – that's the way they play. They hold a lot of teams.
And they should be getting Clowney back. So when he's healthy, we'll see what he can really do. Mm-hmm. They said that his work ethic has been a lot better. Yeah. He seems a lot more serious. And when you're around J.J. Watt – you should be picking up on how to work as a pro. So you know, they could, again, just be super scary this year.
My one wild card in my top 5, and I'll finish myself out because the Cardinals are the Cardinals. We know how elite they are. We both have them in our top 5. I have the Eagles, and that's because they got a lot of pick sixes. They got a lot of return touchdowns. They're very high on the sacks, and I mean, that's the one thing I think that is working for sure for that team is the Eagles' defense. Their offense, they're blowing out teams in preseason. I loved the Ravens' excuse, whether or not it's for real, said that we let you guys blow us out because we didn't set ourselves up to play your offense. Wow, way to cop out, dude. But but I believe in the defensive system there. The offensive system, that's a whole other show. You could do 2 hours on Chip Kelly and that whole situation.
Yeah, and just going back to the Cardinals really fast, it's good to note that Tyrann Mathieu is back. So that should really, really help their secondary. He was having a great season before he got hurt. So he's back for them. And then I threw the Rams in there. I threw the Rams in there because they are a really good mix between veteran and young talent.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
And, you know, Jeff Fisher is just a defensive-minded coach. That is his strength as a coach. Yeah. So I just think that they are typically always a good defense. That division is incredibly hard with defenses. The Niners might not be as good this year. And Chris Long should be healthier this season as well, so that helps out the Rams a lot. So is there any other defenses we should go over? The Broncos, I think, are going to be much improved on defense. Yeah. Von Miller looks great. Again, Kubiak knows some stuff about defenses, even though he's maybe a little more of an offensive guy. But, you know, it just looks like the system they're running right now for that defense in preseason is working because they are wreaking havoc and sacking the crap out of quarterbacks. So I think it's cool we both have the Broncos in there.
I mean, to give credit where credit is due, Jack Del Rio was the foundation of that defense, and they're continuing on that. And unfortunately, Del Rio is now on the Raiders. Oh, boy. But, hey, I mean, they're following in his footsteps, and Del Rio, that was the one thing that never was a problem on the Jaguars when he was coaching them, was the defense. It was always the offense that was suspect. I have my Rams top 10, and I'll just say, hey, build that stadium out there, huh? We'll take the LA Rams. I'll definitely... I don't want the Chargers because I don't want the Raiders. Sorry, Raider fans out there, but no. No, and no. Stay in Oakland. You guys love being in Oakland. Just stay up there and enjoy it. Let us have the LA Rams, and St. Louis can, just not have a football team again. They weren't nice to the St. Louis Cardinals, and, they haven't been packed. The Rams did a little crappy, and they don't pack the stadium anymore, so let us have them. We need a team here in LA to go root for. One quick question on that. Will you root for them if they come?
Will I root for the Rams?
Yeah.
No, the Bears will always be my team, so I will not root for them, but I will go definitely see more games, probably. I mean, I'll definitely go just because I love football. So, but no, I'm like a one-team person in all my sports. I don't have teams from 2 different cities, so I'm Chicago only across the board. This one here roots for the Clippers and stuff like that, and I'm sure in another 2 years he'll start rooting for the Kings instead of the Hawks.
I will never root for the Kings. Never root for the Kings. I hate the Kings. Anyway, that's for when we start doing fantasy hockey. Anyway, thank you for watching our second draft show. We appreciate it. Don't forget to tweet us at BigBallsFBall. Don't forget to send us those questions. What they do, they go to an email account. It might take us about 12 hours to get back to you. We're trying to work out the system, but we're going to be checking it on a regular basis once the season starts, and we're going to be ready to answer those questions as soon as they come up on Football Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Go get the app, and you're going to have everything ready for you this season. And good luck in your drafts if they're happening. Send us some photos of your team lineup and let us see how you did.
And send us some pictures of your crazy drafts. I'm sure we're not the only bunch of people that drafts and has girls in bikinis and drinks beer.
A good pool party.
Yay! Nothing like a by the side of the pool party, you know. Why drive all the way to Vegas? We've got our own little fun here in beautiful downtown North Hollywood. Anyway, thank you for watching, and watch for the next show. Will be the show about that draft, and then we will see you for the first week of the season.
Absolutely. Good night.
Good night.